Hey guys, Ice Bumper bringing you this 10.2 Frost Death Knight gearing strategy guide. We got the raid releasing on Wednesday. We have lots of things to both craft and target from dungeons. So let's cover the priorities we should have, essentially what embellishment we should have, how we should craft, how we should upgrade gear, and what trinket we should get. Starting off, let's talk about crafting. So it's a bit different this tier compared to the last one because craft gear doesn't go to the highest eye level of Mythic, just like it used to. So Mythic goes to 489, I believe, whereas the max crafter gear is 486. So it's a 3 eye level deficit. This means that you will be seeing much less craft gear in BIS lists, and you will generally have less crafter gear overall. Still, we will always have 2 embellishments, and we will also use crafting kind of fill in slots where we haven't been lucky enough to get anything on Mythic. Now, embellishments, let's start off there. So it's a bit tricky here because we have quite a lot of options. However, at the start of the tier, we're probably going to use the allied wrist guards and a cloak with Shadow Flame patch. That's going to be like early setup. The Shadow Flame patch can be exchanged for Blue Silicon Lining. Blue Silicon Lining is really powerful for Frost Death Knight, regardless of build, and you only need like 30% uptime for it to be worthwhile. Still, that's going to be difficult to hit during progression, especially on bosses where you take a lot of magic damage, or just lots of damage overall. So I would recommend start off with your allied wrist guards, then go into a crafted cloak with the Shadow Flame patch. Later down the line, you can always swap that, right? You don't need to actually invest in any more sparks to swap between Blue Silicon and the patch. You just need to recraft it. Furthermore, down the line, when you get enough sockets, so it's like, you don't need all of them, but quite a lot, like 4 or 5, you would swap to the Lariat instead of the Shadow Flame patch, right? So the upgrade path, as a general rule, would be braces with allied wrist guards, into cloak with Shadow Flame patch, which is then changed into the Lariat once you get enough gear. There are a couple of options here though. So the chest guard of Generosity, the one that gives versatility allies, is honestly an alternative option. That, like, as long as it hits like 2 of your friendlies, that's going to be worthwhile. The only issue is that it's on a tier slot, so early on, you don't want to craft that because you don't want to end up in a scenario where you're sitting there going, I would really like to equip my tear with the chest piece, but I can't because I did a craft in there. So it's an option down the road. And non-embellishment crafting a weapon is definitely something to consider, especially for Breaths and Negosa builds, because you can craft a weapon the first week. Obviously, you might get an upgrade quickly, which means that was kind of wasted. But it's going to be a really big upgrade early. So if you are going to progress on bosses early on in the tier, and you don't have the opportunity to like craft multiple pieces before you end up in the end stages of progression, that might be an option. Still, we don't know how good the legendary is, which is tricky here. Because we'll see that on Wednesday. Hopefully someone will loot it, and we'll see how powerful it is. Which means that you might end up just completely wasting that weapon craft. Because you'll replace it with a legendary and go like obliteration. That kind of thing. Something to keep in mind still. For other crafted pieces, as I said, it's all to fill in the gaps. So you just take a look at the gear you currently have, do a raid bots drop optimizer, see which slot will be best to upgrade, and just go for that. If you are choosing between a weapon and another piece, make sure to divide the cost of the weapon by, or like, you need to take that DPS upgrade from the weapon, divide by 2, so you get it on a per spark level if you're doing a 2-ender weapon. If it's just a dual wield weapon, it's fine to just look at that DPS rule. That's the crafting. Let's move on to the upgrades. In this patch, we will have Crest to upgrade. That is a time limit currency, and it is fixed cost regardless of piece. This means that you want to optimize the essentially DPS per upgrade, regardless of what you're doing. This generally means upgrading your weapon and your trinkets, and then moving on with high stat pieces like your helm, shoulders, chest, legs, that kind of thing. The weapon is in parentheses because we are likely to equip the legendary. It's unclear how quickly. So any crest you put into your weapon will be wasted in the end. Just something to keep in mind. Still, you will probably do it in early progression just because that DPS gain is just much better than any other piece. But it's something to weigh. And you might actually hold off to try and get the legendary. And if you don't get it 1 week, you might go back and go like, okay, I will commit some crest into my weapon, and then hopefully I get the legendary next week. That kind of thing. You can do that. Now, trinkets. This generally is the same for both builds. And we're looking to go double passive. As a general rule for both Breath of Ghost and Obliteration. We do this because both those builds are really quite flat when it comes to damage profile. You might think they're quite bursty, especially Obliteration, but if we look across a fight, it's a very flat profile, which means that stat trinkets just have better value as a general rule. Now, which stat trinkets are actually good? Well, here they are, loads of them. We have pips being really good. We have accelerating sandglass as well, resin, porcelain crab, things like coiled serpent idol, and then branch of the tormented ancients. That's like my primary list. And then we also have cataclysmic signet brand. I need to cover that specifically because cataclysmic signet brand, it does a lot of damage in a long fight because it ramps up over time, but also does a lot of self-inflicted damage. This means that during progression might not be a good idea because if that kills you, that's just going to ruin a pool, right? So potential one for progression. No, sorry, potential one for farm, but progression, I would be very hesitant about running this just for that self-damage portion. There are active trinkets which work relatively well. So you can run Mirror. You can run Spores of Alacrity with Breath of Synagosa, but I would honestly just run 2 passives. It's just simpler. So you don't need to deal with a passive, but with an active that way. For Mythic class, make sure that your passive trinkets are stat trinkets. So you don't want to use anything that deals kind of damage. We just want the raw stats. So that means we pick up things like pips, sandglass, porcelain crab, and Gorecrusted Butcher's Block is actually a good one in Mythic class as well. Those are your targets. Hope that makes sense. And final note in Mythic class, Might of the Ocean. 1.5 minute cooldown. If you pick up Absolute Zero, which you can do with Obliteration, that has a very strong synergy because you would pop that trinket and then use your Fury every 1.5 minutes. But still, I would probably just run double passive because it's much easier. And I don't expect it to do much less damage. Alright, that's your gearing strategy guide for 10.2 Frost Death Knight. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think about this video. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.